Hello, everybody, and welcome to Heart and Soul Connected. I'm Allie, and I'm pleased today to have with me my soul sister, Peggy Starr, who we've known each other since 2007 when we met on the spiritual website Zods. And I've followed Peggy all over the place. She's lived everywhere, she's done everything, and she's agreed to talk to us today. So welcome, Peggy.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you're here. You're
Thank you.
welcome. Uh-huh. So, Peggy, tell us, I guess when did you get inspired, let's say, to become more interested in spiritual, metaphysical concepts or ideas?
Ho, ho. Can we go back to about 1974 and 75?
Okay,
And
sounds good.
rather abrupt changes began happening to my body,
Okay,
like a lot of energy shooting through the body, which I didn't understand. But there
sure.
were a lot of breakdowns too in the body. One morning, I thought I had the flu. I stayed in bed, went back to sleep, and everybody's gone, husband to work and kids to school. And when I woke up, my legs wouldn't move. They were like columns of cement.
Yikes.
What am I going to do with this?
Right.
And something zipped through my head. I have kept a journal by my bedside for a long time. And there it was, and said, you've got to write 3 good things about yourself. I've heard other people say this, but that came up for me as a surprise at that
Wow.
point in time.
Okay, sure.
Whew. And it only took me 45 minutes to write 1 good thing about myself. So we know where I was at that point.
Yeah, you weren't feeling too good at that point. Yep.
No. No. A lot of things had happened. We're at that particular point, we're living on the farm in Ohio, a strip mine farm. We're learning to grow tobacco of all things. So it was a big challenge because I had emergency health issues with myself, with my young son, only 10 years old, and another son missing from the military. And we just had all kinds of crises happening. And what happened is I had a major breakdown. And so when I went to the counselor to speak about what are we going to do with my life now, she said, what have you never done for yourself you really, really want to do?
Self-care.
I always wanted to go back to school. I've always wanted to do that. And I had non-support in doing that, period. Discouragement, don't do that. Why do you need to do that?
Right.
From family members. And she said, but Peggy, she says, we can totally support you going back to school. Financially, childcare, whatever you need, we can do this. And so that's when I went back to school. And rather interestingly, at that time, it only played out later, but interestingly at that time, is in the library at the college, I discovered a big book of pictures, and it was all about Sufism. I didn't understand any of that at that time,
right.
But I loved the artistry of that culture.
Yes.
I bought that book, and so that was my first step, still not knowing what I was doing.
Right.
And so I can say it began between 75 and 77, somewhere in there. And I also had a lot of dreams to guide me too. So big changes happened at that time. That's about when it started.
So how, after you wrote those things about yourself into your journal, were you able to get up? Were your legs then working, or were you stuck there for a while? What happened? I'm still
yeah, that's hilarious because that was how the spin started.
Okay.
So I couldn't move, I couldn't think, I couldn't come up with some good things. I said, well, I tried. That was my one good thing I tried.
Yep.
But what happened is the phone in the kitchen, you know, we didn't have cell phones or anything.
Right.
I'm
Right.
clear in the bedroom. The phone in the kitchen rang. Out of habit, I leaped out of bed and ran to the phone.
Oh. So you didn't
Now
think about
that
it.
was a shock.
I bet. You didn't think about it. You just did it because
I
it was,
did it.
yeah.
No thinking involved. Just did
Yep.
it.
Right.
So what occurred to me after the phone call, which was, do you know, I don't even remember what the phone call was about.
Well, I probably wouldn't either.
That wasn't in the play, I guess.
Mhm.
What I do remember is I felt I've got to go to the rehab counselor. See, I had started the rehab counselor. So I've got to go to the rehab counselor.
Good. Good.
And so I'm running out, I'm dressed and running out to the car. As the school bus comes in, the kids come home. I says, feed yourselves, I'll be going to town.
Yeah, we could do that then. Yeah.
And
When they were
so
younger.
that
Yeah.
was when we entered in the conversation about, well, what have you not done that you really, really want
Oh,
to do?
okay. Okay.
And
Boy,
so how we
that's
came up with
amazing.
the education. And of course, as soon as I came up with that, well, then other people were very angry, like husband and so forth.
Right.
And I'm the one that got to sleep on the couch.
Oh, is that right? That doesn't seem fair.
I was
Okay.
doing things
Uh-huh.
want. And
Mhm.
ultimately, before I graduated, oh, by the way, I graduated with honors in 3 years' time, working full time and going to school.
Good for you.
50-hour drive to school, 50-minute drive to school.
Right.
While that's happening, at night, we're training the lights on the field so we can tend to the tobacco.
Mhm.
Things just got
Wow.
heavier and heavier and heavier.
Sure. Sure. Wow.
And then
that was about the time I was in college when you were. And I know we have a bit of age difference, but I'm so happy to know that because we were both doing the same thing.
what year were you in college? What years?
Between 73 and 77. Yeah.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
I graduated in 77, and the university immediately hired me. I was working for Ohio University.
Yeah.
A few years right off the bat.
Oh, that's great.
Time. It was good
Yeah.
time. But I still didn't know what I was doing. I still had no idea what I was doing or where I was headed. I didn't know the word spirituality, so to speak.
Okay.
I couldn't relate any of these things together yet.
Yeah.
That didn't happen until spring of 1980.
Okay. Okay.
Spring of 1980. I'm looking out the window of my office, beautiful scenery. And in my mind, you couldn't because of the trees see this, but in my mind, I saw 3 clouds and felt a humongous magnet in San Diego pulling me out there. I felt
Oh, wow.
that, and
Okay.
I was crying out loud.
Uh-huh.
To the best of my memory, and you know how memory cannot be reliable.
It can change, yeah.
To the best of my memory, my supervisor, Dr. Betty Menson, came in at that time. She says, Peggy, we'd like to know if you would like to go to San Diego for a seminar.
Wow, of course. Makes
said,
sense.
Hey, that's cool.
At that time, you didn't realize it was the universe talking to you. Wow.
I had not a clue at all.
Yeah.
I had already changed my name at that time. I'd already, because of divorce and everything, I chose the name Peggy Starr. That's clear out of the blue too.
Uh-huh. I love the name though. I always wanted my first name to be Starr when I started my metaphysical stuff, but I'm fine. You know, I love stars and moons. That's why. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I chose Starr for a specific reason. From childhood on, I can remember in the classroom that I would doodle the star with the circle around it. I had no idea what it meant. Later on, I discovered part of the meaning is the human protecting itself. It's a nurturing quality.
Yeah, definitely.
Circle around, protecting itself. That was good too.
It is good. Yeah.
So what happened is Dr. Betty Menson arranged for the flight and all this kind of stuff. And I went out with one of the team member counselors.
Mhm.
One of my ex-husbands lives in San Diego.
Oh.
So I called him up.
Yeah.
He took me out to dinner. We chatted a lot.
There you go.
I
Get a
said,
free
"I'm
meal.
thinking about moving back here." And he says, "Do you need any help?" So
Wow.
he's willing to drive back there and take my youngest son and bring him out. And then I could come later with pulling the U-Haul and everything.
Uh-huh.
So I had my alone time coming across the country.
Yeah. Good.
And
To
that
get
was
you acclimated to where you were going, I guess. Yeah.
acclimated to even being alone.
Sure, of course. After being married with all the kids. Yeah.
Married, children. I'd been married since I was 15. I had left a family with 7 younger, well,
Wow.
there's 7 of us kids total,
Mm-hmm.
but only 2 of them were born when I left at 14. But anyway, all those people all the time. So this is my first time to really.
Sure. Really be alone. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So it's summer of 1980. And I'm traveling along. Freedom, you can't believe. And I'm so exhausted though, by the time I think it was in Iowa. I think that it was Highway 35. In the middle of the night, I pull over and park. I can't go any further. I'm exhausted.
Sure.
And I'm sleeping in, I've got a VW that's packed floor to ceiling.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. I know
I'm
the feeling.
sitting there
Yeah.
sleeping, and I wake up and these clouds pass pretty fast over me, and I can't figure out what's going on. And I get up and look at, and I'm in the middle of a balloon festival, a hot air balloon festival. I thought, holy
Wow.
moly.
How beautiful. Wow.
It's an exaggerated symbol of what's
Right.
happening.
Sure. You're lifting off.
What's happening.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm waving, and and they're waving back, and we're having a great time.
Uh-huh.
So I journey on, and the energy begins to really perk up inside me. By the time I reach the desert of east of San Diego, I have a major breakthrough. I'm just shaking and dancing and everything. And I did
Wow.
not know about.
What was going on?
I had
Kundalini? Yeah. Was it Kundalini?
people refer to it as Kundalini. I don't take on that word. I just say,
Okay.
what
That's fine.
it could be or not be. I don't
Right.
know.
Right.
It was never validated by anyone but my own intuition.
But it opened you up, is what you're
Oh
saying.
my
Yeah.
God.
Definitely.
So I danced the jig and everything else in San Diego. So that's sort of, we're building on the energy flow.
Right.
Building on that. And yet I had the intention of coming here with my degree and my history already, and I think I'm going to go to work right away. And in the very first interview, I can't contain the energy. So I have to tell the people, I'm sorry, this doesn't work for me. I need to leave. And I get out to my car and I'm just shaking like crazy.
Oh,
well,
wow. Wow.
I guess that ends the job hunt. So I end up being a salesperson on the telephone, selling aluminum siding, I think it was.
There you go. It was your armor of protection.
I think so. I think so.
Yes.
So then I met this fellow.
It's always one hanging out waiting for you, Peggy.
And I invite him over for pizza that night. He says, I'll bring the pizza. Okay, fine, you bring the pizza. As I'm going home, Peggy, where's your brain? You just got rid of all its problems and you're going to start up more problems. What's the matter with you?
I know. We do these things.
So he comes through the door. Hi, how are you doing? I'm fine. I take the pizza. I wave to the couch, tell him to go have a seat. I'll get us some plates. And I don't take more than 3 to 4 steps, and I drop the pizza on the table and turn around. I go in there full force. You know, and I was ready to tell him, you know something, but it wouldn't even come out my mouth because my fist hit an invisible wall.
Oh, wow.
Now, come on.
Okay.
Now, come on.
Okay.
You and I know it's hard to explain an invisible wall stopping you, but that's what happened. Kaboom. And I fell back and I started hysterically crying. Hysterically crying. And I'm down on the floor. And I'm so out of it that I've lost touch of my surroundings. I'm in the crying.
Right. Right.
Whew.
Wow.
And at one point I look up and remember there's a man in my house.
And he's looking at you like, oh, what do I do?
And I look over at the couch and he's not there where he belongs.
Oh.
And I look down at my feet and he's sitting there with his legs crossed. We would call that the lotus position, but I didn't then.
Right.
And I gasped out, what are you doing? What's going on? He says, I'm holding space, protection.
Wow.
I don't know what Dickens he's talking about.
Right, I know you don't, but that's, wow. What a day.
And I went back into my crying. I had one heck of a good catharsis.
I bet you did. Sounds like it. And he was patient with you because he understood what you were going through. Yeah, yeah.
And I was exhausted. And pretty soon I felt somebody lift up my head and put a pillow under there. And somebody draped a blanket over me. Well, who the somebody was, of course it was him. I was so out of it, I laid back down and went to sleep. And I didn't wake up until morning when I smelled coffee. He was making the coffee. So then my head says, what the hell, was he here all night? I didn't know about it. I'm just spinning questions like you can't believe.
Yeah.
And I peek into the kitchen. He's sitting at the table. He says, how are you? I says, I'm going to take a shower. And I did. And I came back and he had breakfast ready. And I had nothing to say. I couldn't think to say because I didn't know what was happening.
What was going on? Yeah. Wow.
And he says to me, I have a friend I want you to meet. He says she does Jinshin Jitsu, which is working with the meridians of the body, acupressure.
Sure. Yeah.
And she had a session that night where volunteers all come to her house and they all practice on each other. And he says, I'd like to take you. And I says, I don't think I'm ready for that. I don't even know what it is. He said, well, it looks to me like you need some help.
Yeah.
So
wow.
I was introduced to Jinshin Jitsu. And before I knew it, within a matter of days, she had invited me. She had spare room. She just recently lost her secretary who got married. She says, I have a spare room. Will you come and be my apprentice? She says, I don't pay much, but she says we can exchange room and board.
Wow.
So that's where I began studying the Jinshin Jitsu. And it just kept reading one step.
Yeah. But it all revealed itself. You just had to go with it as it revealed itself to you. Wow. You sounds like you met the right people too, which makes sense. I mean, it isn't like it was a coincidence. I'm sure it was synchronistic. I'm sure it was, maybe karmic. I don't know. Did you ever end up with that man as a boyfriend, or is he just a friend later? Or
Well, it turned out he'd spent many years at Neuorographica.
Okay. Oh, I love Neuorographica. Okay.
The Buddhist center.
Yep.
And yet he lived in his car.
Well, there's a Buddhist ascetic.
Urban Buddhist. So he refused to work mainstream.
I don't blame him in a way.
I don't need that.
Yeah.
And so, we traveled some together, but he said, you really need to take a vacation and go off to India for a bit. Now, we're only talking about the fall of 1980, and I've been having these changes rapidly, you know.
Wow.
Okay, so by
boy.
81,
Yeah.
I'm in India.
Now, where is your 10-year-old? With his father?
My son stayed with my former husband,
Okay. Okay.
which was about 6 blocks from my apartment.
Oh,
We
that's right.
got
Okay.
there in
That
San
worked out
Diego.
okay. Yep.
It all
Yep.
worked out somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, my son was in his last year of high school, and he stayed with his dad while I went to India.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed at the Sivananda ashram in southern Trivandrum. Can you believe back then the prices of things? The whole day, 8 rupees, $1.
Oh my Lord. Yeah.
I could have yoga classes,
Uh-huh.
vegetarian meals, everything.
Wow.
So then later on, I went up to Pune. I guess it's still called Pune. Everybody keeps changing names of things.
I know. No, Pune still is a name. Yeah.
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 And I stayed at
Or
the
Pune. I don't know.
Rajneesh ashram for a while. Learned a lot through that organization. He certainly put out a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
And all of us in the beginning are certainly well balanced. We have our negative as well as our positive issues.
Sure.
Don't ran into that.
Uh-huh.
But I deeply appreciated his wisdom, his books. There were times I couldn't lay him down.
You're talking about it's
What
Osho
everybody
eventually
calls Osho.
calls him Osho, but it was his name is what was
Bhagwan Rajneesh.
Bhagwan, yeah.
So you could say,
when he was still
in a
in
way,
India.
he
Yeah.
was my first teacher. But however, Taria Cade, who picked me up and took me to Jinchen Jitsu, was
She really was. Yeah. Yeah.
and Ellen with the Jinchen Jitsu, the second one.
Uh-huh.
And then Bhagwan. And then by that time I was on the train.
Sure.
Yeah, I just.
Yeah.
Oh, really? This is what I'm doing. Okay, let's go with it. So when I came back from India, then I went up to Spokane to see, oh my goodness. Now I'll forget everybody. This is a Native American.
Okay. Oh, it wasn't.
He used to be a movie star, and then he started his own cult. And right now I can't even think of it.
David Carradine? Not David Carradine.
No.
No.
Okay.
No,
I'll come up with it. It'll come
that's
down.
That's fine. Yep.
Anyway, it just seemed like I needed a vast introduction to everything. I wanted to be exposed to everything. And
you
so
want
I
to dip into it
from one to another. I started living in the intentional communities, where I stayed with the Sufis in New York. I stayed with the Sufis in San Francisco.
Wow.
I stayed with the Buddhists up at Mount Shasta, the Zen Buddhist Center, and took vows with the Buddhists. However, I've gravitated towards the Tibetan Buddhism.
Me too. That's what I like the best.
Yeah.
Because I love the Dalai Lama.
Oh, I love the Dalai Lama, but I also love the Karmapa too.
Yes.
Very much.
Very much.
And the Karmapa is moving very. Before it began to be announced that he might be stepping into higher shoes, I already knew that he has that quality. It's there.
Yep. You can tell. Yeah, you're right.
Yep. Yeah. Bigger things coming. So then somewhere along the way, I also decided I needed the master's degree. I wanted it in world religions, psychology, and art. Now, whoever put all these things together, but
no, I'm an interdisciplinary person. So it's humanities, really, all those
Yeah.
things that you're talking
Well,
about.
everything is integrated anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Already there, we got away from that integration, and
We
kept
did.
dividing
Specializing.
things up and
Yes.
separating things and creating distance. and-
Division. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we had to come back around.
We did.
So I connected with Montpelier, Goddard College.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
because
beautiful
I could do
college.
it through the mail.
Yes.
Still no internet, but doing it through the mail.
Uh-huh.
Created the master's degree, and that worked out well. But still, it's always for me. I went to school for me. I didn't
Right.
go to school for
You
a
didn't
career.
do it for anyone else. And that's
Never
important.
a career. Made that clear right off the bat.
Yep. That's
So what
great.
happened was I'm going to jump back to when I was
Okay.
at Ohio University.
Okay.
I'm sitting and looking out the window. That was during the time that Judy Chicago, the artist, was doing the dinner party. And there was a huge presentation of it at the Women's Building in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
So that's in the middle 70s.
Right.
I'm looking at that and I'm saying, Judy, someday I'm going to get to the Women's Building. I didn't make it until 1992.
Doesn't matter. You still got there.
Judy's long gone. But the Women's Building, I'm
Mhm.
living with the Sufis up in Bernal Heights, up above San Francisco.
Mhm.
And I'm deciding I'm going for a walk today. And I walk down and I'm one street corner from the Women's Building,
Mhm.
standing at the stoplight. Zip, you're going to find a job today. Zip, you're going to be a job coordinator today. Zip. It's like, okay.
Wow.
Keep coming in more solidly all the time.
Sure.
Their
Yep.
dreams at night.
Yep.
Messages during the day.
Very
blah, blah,
connected to your spirit guides. Yeah.
So I
and your higher
walk
self.
across and into the Women's Building and into the alcove off of the lobby where they got a bunch of resources. And I'm looking it all over. Sitting on the other side of the petition are two women, and they're designing the next job that they're going to fill.
Gee, I wonder what it could be. Oh, wow.
They're creating a work position that is a combination of a job development resource person, counselor.
Yeah.
And this person will design workshops to present to hard to employ older women.
Okay.
That's cool. That relates to all I've been doing at the university.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So funny. So I toddle back up the hill and I write up my resume according to what they said.
What they said. Oh, that's the way to get the job. Yep. Yep.
Took it back
And you
down.
got the job.
First, I offered myself as a volunteer.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
And then I said, if you have any jobs open, I have my resume handy.
That's awesome, Peggy. That's
Obviously,
awesome.
I got the job.
You did. You did. I want to stay with the stories, but I also want to integrate just a little bit about your Neuorographica. Is that how you say it? Neuorographica. Okay. Which is something that you studied more recently. But I remember the picture you drew and that you showed me, and we were talking about the festival of the balloons. And so I wonder if you have that and you could explain to people exactly how this works and why you were drawn to it.
Okay. This will be little tiny bits, very brief.
Okay.
Spread out over the program.
That's
Very
fine.
brief.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I was scrolling around on Facebook one day and I came upon our friend Deanne, who had on her page something about Neuorographica. It being new to me, oh heck, let's dive in and see what it is.
See what it is.
And I never came back. I went down, got some pictures, found out the beginning of it. It was developed by Pavel Piscarev, Piscarev.
Okay.
Piscarev. Pavel is he's an artist, psychiatrist, psychologist, an architect. He has a gazillion degrees.
Uh-huh.
He's created this project maybe 7 to 9 years ago, something like that. And what it essentially does, you dig into your consciousness, you throw it onto the paper, and you work with the neurons. If you throw it onto the paper, you're going to have something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Major scribble.
Yeah.
And you're pulling out all the energy and anger and frustration and whatever it is. And it can be anything. It can be a frustration with your spouse, with your employer, childhood, abuse. It can be anything.
Right. Anything. Yep. COVID.
What often happens is then you come up with something like that.
Woo-wee. Yeah.
Your very first drawing might have an archetype in there.
Right.
I did not plan that archetype. I just followed the lines to color it.
Okay.
This is none of it's planned. It's all spontaneous. The subconscious is doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a plan. When you draw this, you do what's called rounding. You see this here. Now you would do that to every single connection in there, no matter where it is.
Okay.
You do the rounding. At some point, you will do some circling. This is nurturing, the rounding. So there's a step-by-step plan. It's stuck in this particular algorithm plan. You start with a theme. This theme is removing inner limitations.
Okay.
You start with your intentions. I've got to get rid of this childhood pain and memory that's just driving me in the grave right now. Okay.
Right.
Or whatever.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And so you start drawing neurons. Well, that is developing the composition.
Uh-huh.
Then you do the roundings, builds the compositions.
Yep.
You do the integration, which is the circles.
Circles. Mm-hmm.
And pretty soon you do the coloring. Not only did I, this one was done when I felt I could not get transportation for all of my illness that I was facing.
Okay. Okay.
So I was embedded with fear and trauma again. Yep. Well, look at the egg.
I know. Oh, it looks like the cosmic egg. So
there I am with all this challenges, and yet I'm birthing something, a new situation. The transportation opened up crazy.
I bet it did, because you let it go. You got it down. You
let it go. I was reaching out for help.
Uh-huh. Wow. Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, not always will the archetypes come through. Sometimes it's like this. You just got a wild, crazy thing. But there is movement. There's dynamics. Yep. Something's going on.
Something's breaking through. Yeah. And the colors, you would just intuit the colors as well. You just say, this is where I think yellow should be. And
this is it.
All intuitive.
This is it. It's all intuitive. There's not a plan at all.
Understood.
Parts kept coming up. It's going to be okay.
Yes.
So
wow.
One particular archetype solidly every day for 7 days. Now this is after I completed all the training. Right. I was told, go out and start coaching people, start sharing your talent. Right. I said, no. I shut down. I closed up. I didn't want to talk with anybody. I wanted to do the drawing all by myself without any interference with the Zoom talking.
Sure. Yeah, that's your process, Peggy.
And on the 7th night, I had a dream, and it was that.
Oh, look at that.
And so, and I felt completely cleared of the energy. Completely cleared of the energy. So in the early stages, when it's working therapeutically, you're going to have all those neurons running all over the place.
Running all over the place. But then eventually you get balanced, is what you're saying.
Eventually, you get rid of that and you move on. And then you can do art, which I could not have done before.
Understood. I'm not an artist either, really, that way, visual. Yeah.
We're artistic with our lives, and then
Right.
eventually it all comes together.
Sure. Sure.
So anyway, so you've got your theme, you got your composition,
Yeah.
you got your roundings. I'm reading the paper here.
That's okay. Take your time. Yeah.
The coloring.
Mm-hmm.
At the very end, I don't have it on these. At the very end, you can run what you call field lines. It's an extra burst of energy.
Okay.
Run about 3 to 5 red lines up. It's
Okay.
this burst of energy.
Uh-huh.
I don't do that with a lot of mine. It's an optional.
Mm-hmm.
The option is there. And then you're back at your theme at the ending. Now, the reason for all of this is keeping a journal. That's half of what this is about.
Understood. Nope, I do. Yep.
If something comes up while you're drawing, if you only think of one word, dang, why
Write
does
it down.
it smell like wood? Write it down. It will
I
begin
love it.
to build.
Yep. I love it.
So
I
the
do.
journal is equal to the drawing.
Okay. So they both have meaning. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's that much. I can show you more pictures, but what would
Not
you
right now.
like?
You know what I really want to do is, and this is totally up to you. At the time that you said you felt like you should go share it, but then you said, no, I'm doing it for me. I'm not going to share it. But I'm wondering if you were amenable to people emailing you and saying, you know, if they're interested in knowing more about it, they can contact you. You know, that's your choice. I know sometimes these things can get overwhelming, but nobody talks about this, but it is much like divination in a lot of ways, but it's inner, because tarot is inner, and you know, all the other card readers and the psychics and everything. But this actually has your ability to flesh it out in pictures and words.
I call it spiritual substance.
I love it. I love it. I do. And I think
it's the real essence of what you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Well, after I did the lockdown in 7 days and getting that out, then I did start a class.
Oh, good. Okay.
I did have a class going on at the senior center, which was nearby.
Uh-huh.
And over the time, I did have a total of 9 students in the beginning. And, and then we had our lockdown.
Right.
And so they shut down the senior center. And so I carried forth with a couple of people in the doing the email exchanges.
Sure.
And they're not, and it's interesting to me in these 2 aspects. Remember I said I wanted to shut down to get away from the Zoom and the talking and so forth.
Correct. Yep.
Some of us want to have that isolation to focus.
Oh yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Others are getting dependent on the Zooms and they don't want to go into alone time.
Right.
Very clearly, we both have friends in those situations.
Sure we do. And even myself, I really cherish my alone time and my production, but I also feel like I was supposed to share. So
yes,
that's what started this whole thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it works both ways. It's kind of like way back when you asked if my early new friend, the male friend, ever became a relationship. Well, yes, we did. And we explored a lot of those things of the separation that is necessary for individual growth and development, as well as together. Right. And so we rented a house in Florence, Oregon with 2 bedrooms just so that we could have our separate space.
Sure. Yeah. That's perfect. I think that's wonderful, because there's a recognition that we really enjoy being together, but we also really enjoy being by ourselves.
Exactly.
And there's not a lot of couples or even good friends that can do that. So that's fabulous. Yeah. Well, I want you to come back and talk to my audience. I want to leave this here today as it is, but I'm excited about it, and I can tell you how excited you are. I want to know more stories, but I also want to know more about this and any other topics that we can talk about. And I'm just going to let everybody know this is just one of many that I'm hoping to do with Peggy. And isn't she wonderful? I love her. Yeah.
And I love that we're getting together and we don't have masks on.
I know, we're free.
There's an
So
elbow hug.
that's right. So I'm going to say, sign off with my viewers. We'll be back again, and Peggy will be here, and I'll let you know when she comes back. So have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.